Time is now 6:30 p.m. and I call the July 15th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Booth?
Here.
Commissioner Leaf?
Here.
Vice Chair Dreckman?
Here.
Chair Sawish?
Present.
Commissioner Schatz? Commissioner Brodus?
Present.
Commissioner Hemphill?
Here.
And I will note that Commissioner Schatz is out on an excused absence.
Thank you. We have an agenda before us this evening. Does staff have any changes?
No changes.
Do any of the commissioners have any changes? All right. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve, Hemphill.
Second.
That is Hemphill with the motion and Booth with the second. Can I have, actually, let's just go voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. That is unanimous. We have the now meeting minutes from the July 1st Planning Commission meeting. Are there any changes to be made? Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That is a motion by Brodus and a second by Dreckman. Let's do a voice vote again. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. That is unanimous again. This now brings us to the public comments portion. Is there anybody signed up for general public comment?
It does appear that two people are signed up online, Tom and Shane.
Okay. And just to confirm, that's for general public comment, not for the hearing that's upcoming, correct?
Yeah, I just have some comments about you guys just approving construction on that piece of property in Vista Ridge.
As in the PD, that is
Yeah, isn't that on the agenda for today?
the general business item. Yeah, we're going to have public comment specifically for that when we open up the public hearing. So it'll be 15, 20 minutes or so. So
All right, but you already all approved it, correct?
no,
That was-
that's the hearing for tonight.
Okay.
Okay, and then you said there were two virtual.
Yeah, I have one virtual, Chris McGranahan. Will you raise your hand, Chris, if you would like to speak virtually?
He's with the applicant team. He's the traffic engineer on the Vista Reserve project.
Okay.
Other than that, we have no one else online.
Okay, so then I will end the public comment, and that will lead us to the first item that is on our agenda for tonight. That is a public hearing resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval of Vista Ridge PD Amendment Number 8 with a condition, and 2, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending the Town Council approve the Vista Reserve preliminary plat with a condition. This is item 2026-421. And the time is now 6:33. I will open up the public hearing, and I will turn it over to staff.
Thank you. Chris LaRue with Planning and Development, here to present the Vista Reserve PD Amendment and preliminary plat. So the project is 19.05 acres. It's proposed at 50 single-family detached lots and 4 tracts. Proposed density comes out to 2.62 dwelling units per acre. The existing zoning is planned development in Vista Ridge. And currently, the property is used for a single-family home, and there's some outbuildings. It's an agricultural use. So here's where we're at in the development review process. This is basically the first step. It's been annexed for many years, or since approximately 2000. Here they're proposing to expand the PD slightly, and then the preliminary plat is just a high-level review of the application, the proposed lots. Next step for this would be Planning Commission makes a recommendation. Next step would be Town Council, who makes the decision on both of the applications. If that is successful, they'll need to come back for a final plat and development agreement, and that's typically heard on our consent agendas. So the presentation tonight goes over several things. We'll talk about the background of the project, the proposal itself, the review, evaluation, and then the recommendation from town staff. Here's the location. It's located southeast of Vista Parkway and Single Tree Lane. Tried to put it in this sort of overall area map to give you a good indication of where it's at. This is Bonanza Drive on the west, Highway 7 to the south. This is Vista Parkway that runs up through the development. The site is highlighted in the red on your screen, and Single Tree Lane is to the north of the site. The existing zoning for the property, it's in the Vista Ridge Plan Development. The PD currently does allow single-family detached. It also has a maintenance area, and I'll go over what that looks like. This is the existing plan development map on how it looks out there today. Area 2.6, which is this main area that you see, has allowed for up to 50 dwelling units since 2000 when the original zoning was first implemented. And Area 210 then has been vacant since 2002 is when these areas or village areas took their current form in the maintenance area and then the other single family area. And so the maintenance area has never developed, and it is privately owned by the property owner that owns 2.6. She also owns 2.10. This is the comprehensive plan designation for the site. It's designated as residential low. This typically involves a transitional range of detached and or attached houses. To be clear, the project tonight would be for detached homes. That calls for a range of 2 to 8 dwelling units per acre. The PD itself for this area would allow up to 3. The preliminary plat is at 2.62, so it is under the overall density, and that's just because they're expanding in a slight area. We have found that the proposal is consistent with several of our comprehensive plan policies. I have some of them listed on the screen here. Just talking about connectivity in the neighborhood, making sure that the area is accessible, usable, good design, make sure that it meets comprehensive plan, vision, priority, and goals, require the new development to provide adequate public facilities at the time of the development, encourage infill and adaptive reuse of properties. Here's just some photos of surrounding context. Here is the subset of the site. This is Vista Parkway and Single Tree Lane. The arrows basically represent as you go around where the pictures were taken. This is looking south. I should note I did get them off Google Maps. This is looking south at Vista Parkway and Single Tree Road, looking into the site. This next property down here on the south is looking south on Hickory Drive. And then there's another shot that's just looking further along Single Tree Lane up the road a little bit. And here's the site over here to the right. So now we'll go over the proposal that the applicant has applied for. The PD amendment combines areas 210 and 2.6. I guess I would note that the top map that you see is the existing PD and how it looks today. The one on the bottom, if successful, just shows how 210 would be combined into 2.6 to create one new planning area. There are no changes to the existing 50-unit cap. That is still maintained. It reduces the overall DUs from dwelling units per acre from 3 to 2.62, and it maintains the existing low-density development standards that are established in the PD itself, and that's for setbacks and architecture and those kinds of things. So really what this PD does is just sort of restate those requirements for this area and make one big piece instead of 2. This is the preliminary plat for the site that shows the 50 single-family detached lots. And you can see it just expands into the maintenance area, but does not increase any density than what's already allowed. There are 4 tracks that are used for landscaping and connections to the surrounding area. Lots themselves range anywhere from 8,277 square feet up to close to 20,000 square feet. Average is right around 10,000 to 11,000 square feet. Now, the next several slides will go over different things with the preliminary plat itself, but this is the overall illustrative site plan. It's a little easier to see than the plat itself. The yellow that you see are the proposed lots. There are green areas that show plantings, trail connections, and I'll cover those here in just a second. Oh, and there's the detention area that you can see. There is a capped and abandoned oil well on the site that shows the appropriate clear area, and I have a slide for that in just a second. So we'll go over the review and evaluation of the proposal. Just a quick note on the schools, that there is no land dedication required from the school district. They are required to pay a fee, a cash in lieu. That's required at the building permit. It would be noted in the future DA with final plat submittal. Schools that serve the site include Black Rock Elementary, Erie Middle School and High School, and possibly then, of course, the new high school that's being built to the north of town. This is a look at transportation for the site. There would be a new entry over here at Single Tree Lane and Remuda Place, and that would be a three-way intersection with a stop sign. There'd be a new entry down here off of Peach, be full movement, and this is at Hickory. And then they would include all new local streets within the development itself. Pedestrian-wise, there would be trail connections off the cul-de-sac here. There'd be another trail connection over to the east that comes down to Hickory and connects over to a park in the area. And this slide will just kind of show overall the park requirements. The park and open space requirements are already met by the PD. All these 50 lots were always factored into the overall development for many years. There are two parks nearby, one to the north here along Single Tree and Vista Parkway. There's another one over here to the east. And of course, there's the golf course in the area. There's the Columbine Community Park that's also in Vista Ridge that serves the overall area. And then there are amenity areas in the subdivision, and it's fully connected with sidewalks throughout and then connect to the surrounding area. Here's the oil and gas well that I'd mentioned a minute ago. There's only one site. It's in the red that you see on the screen. Normally the standards require 150-foot setback, but it can be reduced to 50 feet by 100 with proper documentation showing that it's safely capped. Our environmental team reviewed that and found that it was appropriate. So the red area is approximately the location of where that 50 by 100 foot area is located on the plat. So in terms of infrastructure for the site, there's already water and sanitary adequate to serve the site. They're already in the area. They just needed to be extended through the development. There were no concerns from our Public Works and Engineering team regarding the drainage study. Of course, with final plat submittal, we'll want to look at the final reports for that. And then easements and final plans are reviewed at the time of the final plat itself. All the appropriate public notices have been met for the Planning Commission hearing tonight. That includes being published in the paper, the property being physically posted, and then letters sent to adjacent property owners. They also had their required neighborhood meeting that occurred in January. It was an online meeting. They reported 21 attendees there. All of that information's in the packet with their sign-in sheet. But they had several questions at that meeting. Just include questions on consistency with the PD, the types of homes that were planned, prices of what they would be offering, traffic impacts, landscaping, drainage, and timeline of the overall development itself. So now we'll get to the staff recommendation. I'm not going to read through all these criteria because there are a lot of them on here, but here are the approval criteria for the PD amendment. And we have found that through our review that they have met all the requirements of these criteria. And then these are the ones for the preliminary plat. A lot of these are similar with the PD, talking about consistency with comp plan, zoning regulations, making sure that it's safe and appropriate for the area. So staff has found that the PD amendment and the preliminary plat comply with these review criteria. We recommend the Planning Commission to recommend approval to the Town Council for the two resolutions before you tonight. They include resolution number P2612 for the PD amendment and resolution number P2613 for the preliminary plat. So with that, that concludes the staff presentation. The applicant does have a presentation prepared. I'll pull that up and they can join us here in a second. And I'm happy to answer questions when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the applicant presentation. I assume the individuals who are online can hear us and can We can hear you.
Seems Chris got briefly disconnected. I think he's working on getting back on right now.
Okay. We can just wait a moment while he reconnects.
Looks like he's back on.
Yes, Chris is here. I can hear everything just fine.
Perfect. Okay. Feel free.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you.
My name is Paul Shukas. I'm with PCS Group. We're located at 200 Calumet Street in Denver, 80223. First, I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to our application and your service on the Planning Commission. I'm here tonight to speak about the development plan amendment for Vista Ridge along with the preliminary plat. My goal is to keep things straightforward and be as transparent as possible with the intent of our application. So before we get started, I just want to quickly introduce the project team. We're mostly here tonight, as you know. Like I said, I'm with PCS Group. I'm representing the land planning and landscape architecture for the project. We're joined by the applicant and the developer, Affinity Holdings. Hurst, our civil engineer, is also here. LSC provided the traffic analysis and, as you know, is called in remotely to answer any questions since Chris is out of town. So the applicant, Affinity Holdings, is represented tonight by Cade Bader. Affinity is a custom home builder focused on developing and building higher-end single-family residential communities along the Front Range. Their homes have won numerous MAME awards in the past and have a strong architectural presence. We feel like this is reflected in the site design and the overall vision for the Vista Ridge neighborhood. This just gives me a quick opportunity to thank staff, specifically Chris LaRue and Nicole Johnson, for helping us through the process. I appreciate that very much. They've put a lot of time and effort into getting this application to this point tonight. As Chris mentioned, we hosted a neighborhood meeting in January and have had subsequent conversations with some of the members of the community. We heard feedback related to architecture, parking, traffic, density, and open space. And that has kind of helped shape the development plan amendment and how that translates into the preliminary plat. So I think staff did a good job presenting the application, so I'm going to do my best just to fill in the blanks here and not be redundant. We're here tonight to talk about Ms. Johnson's property. She's lived on the site for many years, as Chris had mentioned, and she's been pretty instrumental in the development of Vista Ridge over time. The site's proposed, as Chris mentioned, for single-family detached homes, and the density we're proposing is lower than many of our adjacent neighbors around us. The site's also an infill site, and we've done our best to make it in keeping with the residential character of the surrounding area. So as Chris mentioned, we followed the guidance of the comp plan. The site has been identified as an opportunity site for development. It's an infill site with existing infrastructure all around it. The comp plan designates the property for residential low. The infill sites are a smart way to grow and develop, but they're also tough to design because everything is grown around them. So there's a lot of parameters that you have to meet. So for our PD amendment, I'm just going to briefly reiterate the request. We've got two parcels. Planning area 210 is currently identified in that shaded area as a golf course maintenance facility, and parcel 26 is identified for single-family residential development in the zoning dock. What we're requesting is the ability to combine those two parcels and to change the use of parcel 210 from a maintenance area to allow for single-family detached residential. The biggest thing to note is we're not, like Chris said, increasing the total number of units allowed. That was allowed in planning area 2.6. We're just increasing the land mass. The current development plan allows up to 50 units, and we're staying within that limit. What we're asking is to disperse those units across both parcels of ground rather than limiting them just to one parcel. So our request is mainly about land use, and we're not increasing the approved residential density within Vista Ridge. So There's a lot of charts here and guidelines. I've kind of gone over the core request. We don't really want to increase our residential density. We just want to increase the area. And like Chris said, that'll go down to 2.6 dwelling units per acre. We're also not changing the setbacks. We're not changing the average lot size, which will stay at 7,500 square feet. If the development plan is recommended for approval this evening, the next step is the preliminary plat, which accommodates that request. Our site plan shows 50 single-family lots, averaging around 10,700 square feet. We intentionally laid the plan out as a small residential enclave. The idea was to internalize the homes as much as possible so that no new driveways would front directly onto the existing neighborhood streets along Hickory Drive or Single Tree Lane to minimize impact to the people that already live there. In doing so, we've added landscape buffers along the edges to soften the streetscape. The plan also includes pedestrian connections to the surrounding open space and park areas. One of those connections is across to Linden Park. The other one is across Hickory Drive or Single Tree Lane to the north. And I'll highlight these in just a little bit more detail. So this slide shows some of the key elements of the site plan. The small yellow arrows show how each homeowner would access their home from a driveway. So it shows the internal circulation pattern and the way homes are oriented within the neighborhood. The green areas represent the landscape buffers and some of the tracks and common areas that are provided throughout the site. And at our Good Neighbor meeting, we heard from residents to the south regarding existing drainage conditions from the horse property. In response, we've tried to improve that condition by adding storm drainage to Peach Place, which is right here, along with the drainage swale along the south end of the property, which connects to storm sewers and the detention facility to Vista Parkway. In the bottom left, you can see that the diagram shows the approved setbacks that we haven't changed from the development plan. We're not revising any of these. Each lot will still have a minimum 20-foot front yard, a 25-foot rear yard, and 5-foot side yard. On the site plan, the blue area here was where the existing maintenance or where the maintenance area for the development plan would overlay. But we feel like this is probably a better use, and you can kind of see how now the two parcels work together. This highlights some of the existing sidewalk and trail connections around the site. So the red dashed lines are the existing sidewalks along the perimeter of the property. The blue lines represent new sidewalks that we're proposing within the project. They're primarily 5-foot detached concrete sidewalks or trail connections, and these walks connect into the existing network and provide pedestrian access to the park areas to the northwest and the northeast. These are some of the homes that are proposed within Vista Reserve. They're intended to be semi-custom, starting around $1 million. Each home will have a 2-car garage and will comply with the HOA for Vista Ridge. We will be part of the district. The vision is to create a high-quality residential community with strong architecture that fits within the surrounding area. So I'm going to show you a couple of perspectives and then wrap up. This is a perspective showing what the community would look like from the perimeter along Hickory Drive, kind of looking north. Kind of shows that streetscape and the undulating setbacks we've provided along with the landscape buffers along the edge of the property to soften the view from the existing neighborhood. This view shows what the pedestrian corridor would look like as you walk towards the existing park to the east of the property. These are pockets of planting along the trail with seasonal interest, and all the trail connections are planned to be ADA accessible. We plan on carrying the same signage and overall vernacular that you see through Vista Ridge to this neighborhood as well. This image was taken from the corner of Hickory Drive and Peach Place. It helps the community maintain that character. This was taken from Vista Parkway and Single Tree Lane. In this area, we have a large setback which accommodates water quality along with a more open and inviting edge to the community. This is the parcel where the maintenance facility would be located under the current development plan, but this once again feels like a better transition into the neighborhood than that. This is the same general area, but looking west along the perimeter trail rather than east. That trail continues along the east, the edge of the property, and then connects with the existing pocket park to the north. This is an internal passive park within our community. It's just intended to be a small gathering area, with a little bit of turf and a shade shelter and an area for residents to gather. It's located off Peach Place. It provides a small neighborhood amenity within the overall plan. So I am going to wrap up. I'm not going to, like Chris, read these verbatim. Just to summarize, we feel like the PD amendment is consistent with the intent of the district, and it supports the town's comp plan, parks, trails, and overall guidance. We feel like the plan maintains the approved residential density, allows for a little bit better site planning, open space, landscape buffers, and connections within Vista Ridge. All the roads are going to be public. They meet town standards. We feel like there's adequate parking. It's good sidewalk and trail connections to nearby parks and open space. We don't think that this is going to create significant adverse impacts. And a lot of the technical items as it relates to drainage and utilities, public services are being addressed with the review process with the town. So same here, this is the preliminary plat. I'm not going to read these. We just feel like the layout meets the town standards for lots and access, utilities, drainage, public safety. It also provides good sidewalk and trail connections to the surrounding neighborhood. Overall, the subdivision is supported by adequate infrastructure since this is an infill site. We believe it meets the applicable criteria here. So, with that, I just want to thank you very much for listening to our presentation. We're here to answer any questions you might have and respectfully request your recommendation for approval.
Thank you. Okay, we are now going to move to public comment. I'm assuming we have individuals signed up for public comment. So I do have a little verbiage that I'm going to read right now, just so everybody is aware. Public comment is intended for items not already scheduled on, sorry, wrong one. Public comment is not a question and answer time. When you are called upon or admitted virtually, you'll be asked to state your full name and city of residence for the record. It is, again, not interactive, but rather a time for you to state your comments on this particular item. You'll be given a 20-second warning when your 3 minutes are almost up. At the 3-minute mark, we will ask you to wrap up your final sentence. If you are giving public comment virtually, we will ask you to wrap up and mute your microphone. You're more than welcome to continue watching the meeting or end your call at that time. So I'm going to turn this over to the secretary if you'd like to call the first individual.
It is Tom Meyer.
Hi, so Tom Meyer. I live in Erie. I live in this neighborhood. My property does not butt up against this property, just so you know. But I was going through the information on this property and this proposed development, and under I, the staff says that it's not going to lead to any significant adverse impact on the properties in the area. I don't believe that is true. We already have a property that butts up against this property that has not been able to sell, and they've reduced the price dramatically for the neighborhood. It also says construction activities may present an inconvenience. Inconvenience is like redoing your street, not 2 years of development. So we live in this community. We're going to have 2 years of development of dust and concrete trucks and workers. I already have a ton of workers on my street because not you, but the HOA is putting all the rocks in Vista Ridge. And so all I want to know is what benefits is the developer providing to the neighborhood itself for the opportunity to develop this out? And also, I would like to know what the city is going to do about the traffic. 50 homes is about 400 daily trips in and out of our neighborhood. So, that's the big impact that's going to be happening to all of us that live there already, is the amount of traffic during construction for 2 years. We're not going to be able to sell our homes for 2 years. And then once people move in, we're going to have 400 trips coming in and out of those two little roads. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next would be Shane Fresco.
Name is Shane Fresco, Erie, Colorado. Thank you very much for listening to me. Just wanted to bring to everybody's attention, we've talked about it already, the traffic, a big thing coming into that neighborhood. We've got that one road coming over to our Vista Parkway. That's the main road going in. We've just done reconstruction on the roads. We've worried about our community with our kids running around. We've reduced the size of the roads, making sure that we've got speed limits involved there. So putting those extra vehicles there is going to back up some traffic for us. This is after the construction is completed. We do have, along the fence line where I actually stay, we do have water problems there, runoffs. A lot of the houses weren't fitted with the French irrigation systems, so flooding of basements, as well as the soil type that is there, is pushing up on these foundations. We've had some issues with properties in the area when it comes to that. Then going into the construction, very good points. 2 years of the construction going through. We don't have many outlets going into our main roads, going on to 7th, Highway 7. So traffic will be quite heavy over there. Also bringing it through the communities, backing us up and causing more chaos there. If we can come up with a solution how to sort that out, how to rectify it, I think that would be great. The other thing that I was looking at is the infrastructure when it comes to our waters, right? I heard in the presentation that we do have enough water. We do have enough treatment facilities that would give enough water. I haven't seen that. And this is hearsay of what I've heard. Unfortunately, I don't have documentation on it. That we're trying to strike up deals with neighborhoods in the area that we can actually work on our infrastructure with getting water to the neighborhoods. We've just gone through a heavy drought. Everybody's lawn is showing it at the moment in Vista Ridge. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I don't have anyone else signed up for public comment.
Say that again.
I don't have anyone else signed up for public comment.
Okay, is there anybody online?
No one raised their hand.
Okay, I was going to ask if there was anybody else in the room that would like to provide comments, so feel free to come up to the podium.
My name is Michael Morgan. My wife Katie and I live in Erie. We are one of the abutting properties to the horse farm that we have behind us. Part of my day-to-day was going to Costco to get a bag of carrots, celery, and apples to continue feeding them. That's something we really enjoy. But to echo a lot of what everybody else has said, obviously we just got done redoing the roads, making them smaller, single lanes. For 2 years of construction, I'd have to imagine there would be a decent amount of excavation work going on, heavy machinery, equipment, large trucks in and out. There's all kinds of young kids in our neighborhood that are always out in the streets, and we've, in the past year, have had our road closed multiple times from other infrastructure projects. I think water mains or something was being redone, and I think having a lot more traffic is really going to be a burden on everybody trying to move in and out of our neighborhood. On the drainage issues, not long after we moved in, our neighbor's basement flooded after heavy rain. The area in which we live is straight downhill from that area, and even this most recent, a couple weeks ago, there's little sandbars in our backyard of just water coming off that hill and flooding. And in terms of trying to understand what kind of drainage will be put in place is going to be something that would be very interesting to us to see how that will affect us, and are we able to use that as well if we were to try to regrade our homes back into that area? And then third, with everything else, I believe Tom had mentioned it, we understand that what value does it bring to our neighborhood? It doesn't seem like it is helping us specifically. It is hurting us, and it doesn't seem to be adding much to the neighborhood that's not already present. And that 2-year inconvenience again is much more than just an inconvenience. Young kids, new kids having to have that in their backyard, new people. It's just going to be a struggle of a period to go through everything, having to deal with that it's such a beautiful and nice open space already. Adding 50 homes is not going to increase the beauty of it. It's not going to increase accessibility. People are already really enjoying that area. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Phipps. I live in Erie, and we do have a home that we just bought about 3.5 years ago on Single Tree Lane. And I'm kind of just echoing what's already been said. My biggest concern is the traffic. Vista Parkway has become a main thoroughfare from Highway 7 all the way down going towards Arapahoe and stuff, to the point that when I want to cross Vista Parkway with my dog to take him for a walk, a lot of times I can't cross because during commute time, the traffic is so heavy on Vista Parkway. So I can't imagine adding that much more traffic. Yes, it has 2 entrances into this new project that they're talking about, but it still takes them down Single Tree Lane, and they're going to be trying to get onto Vista Parkway. And as they mentioned, there's young families in this area, a lot of kids, and the traffic is very, very concerning. I don't like being on Single Tree Lane with this project coming. Our neighbors to one side of us just sold their home. The corner house up a little further up on Single Tree Lane just sold their home. And I'm not, at my age especially, not looking forward to the next 2 years of construction when we move to this area to retire and enjoy. I do feel that the people that own the property have every right to sell it and make their decisions, but I think it's going to totally change the dynamics within our community right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to provide comment? And we still have nobody online, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, so we'll now bring it back to the commission for commissioner questions. I'm going to start on my left side with Commissioner Hemphill. And real quickly, just 2 questions, and please keep it to questions. We'll have a round of deliberation where we can do comments, so just questions at this point, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Probably for the applicant, there was talk about drainage. We've heard from previous residents in different areas that drainage gets worse during construction. So construction impacts of drainage, it sounds like drainage is already bad. Can you describe some of the drainage mitigation that will occur to when this is complete and what will happen during construction?
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Can you put up my slides again? Yep. Did you the supplemental thing that I sent?
Yes, just tell me which one you'd like.
I got you.
Oh, you got it.
Okay. So I'm going to do my best to explain this. I'm going to turn around to my civil engineer. If I do an adequate job, then he's going to come up and fill in the blanks. Currently, what's happening is the property has got a high point, and there is quite a bit of drainage that flows down to these existing lots. These are some of the folks that are adjacent to us. What we've done is mitigate that by making sure that almost all of the drainage flows into the streets. So lots now that are adjacent to Peach Place, water will go into Peach Place, and the fronts of the yards will go into Peach Place. So now we have the backyards that are draining down the hill, as opposed to all of the water from the high point draining down the hill. What we've also done is we have inlets along the backs of these property lines, and this is a 12 to 18 inch pipe that comes down the back into the detention area and then out into Vista Parkway. That's how we're trying our best to mitigate this and improve the drainage situation that is currently happening on site. Was that eloquent
It's
enough?
kind of a two-part question, skirting the rules, but how do you do drainage during construction?
I'm not a construction guy. Can anyone else answer that?
Hi, I'm Tom Ackerman, the civil engineer on the site, and I would imagine one of the first things they do when they start accessing the site is they'll cut a swale on the back of that fence, so all this stuff coming down is diverted in the same direction toward our detention pond. So I think that's about the best we can do
Okay,
during construction until the pipe and the inlets get installed.
all right.
I could add a little to that in terms of construction. Prior to beginning activities, they're required to do a conference meeting with the town to go over the construction plan, any kind of traffic mitigation that has to occur. We share hours of operation, nuisance control. We require numbers and contacts in case of nuisance. Go over watering plan for construction site, and basically make sure that they understand the rules of the town and that there is a contact point so that we can take care of any problems should they arise.
Thank you. Second question about traffic. I'm looking at application materials number 2 in our packet, starting around PDF page 42. In that figure 3, existing traffic lane, geometry, and traffic control, there are sites 7 and 8, which are the traffic components that will be the intersections of the new site, and they're labeled as intentionally left blank. So I'm first wondering why there wasn't any traffic data collected at these exits of the site, and then an explanation of the peak traffic that's going onto Vista Parkway from the site, which is figure 7 in that packet.
I'll answer a couple of quick questions, but I'm going to defer to the applicant's transportation engineer that's online. I believe that's Chris McGranahan. He'll be able to answer those questions. But in terms of volumes, I guess just generally it's projected to generate about 360 trips on the average weekday. That's with half entering and exiting in a 24-hour period. Morning peak is 6 vehicles in with about 18 out. That's a 2-hour window in the morning. And then the peak afternoon is looking about 17 vehicles entering, 12 exiting. But I just wanted to share that information. They provided levels of service for surrounding area. Town staff reviewed that, found that it meets acceptable levels at this time. And I'll turn it over to the applicant's technical team from there.
Chris, are you online?
Yes, this is Chris McGranahan. Can everyone hear me fine?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Great. So my name's Chris McGranahan. I'm with a principal with LSC Transportation Consultants, 1889 York Street, Denver, 80206. We did complete a traffic study for the project. The reason that we had some intersections that said intentionally left blank is that we analyzed the intersections that the town may have questions on where there may be a capacity issue, so some of the busier intersections around the site. But some of the internal intersections where the volumes are quite low, we're not worried about capacity there, but we wanted to be able to document where the traffic's coming to and from within the interior parts of the project. So So those intersections that say intentionally left blank are not intersections where we looked at overall level of service, but we wanted to assign trips so that someone doing an accounting process could see where all those trips come to and from. It's worth noting that I think it's been mentioned a couple times before that the master overall Vista Ridge development planned for residential in this area. So all the major roadways and connectivity accounts for these lots. And so there, it makes sense that the traffic study shows that these lots can be accommodated because this is nothing new. That it's new to the current existing condition, but it's not new to the long range planning document. So I think that'd be the end of my response, but I'm happy to answer follow-up questions if there are any.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ruth?
I'm continuing on those two topics. They're always the big topics. So on the drainage, and I'm going to cheat and do a two-part question
Please
as
do.
well, because he set the tone. I just want to see if you reiterate. I was thinking that with this plan, the drainage issues that are being seen today could be and will be improved with what you're putting into the project.
I'm going to say they're going to be significantly improved, and that's mostly because the amount of volume that will now be draining towards the south is going to be cut significantly. So I wish I could draw on this screen, but if you can see my hand moving, we'll just say that right now, part of the site was draining, half of the site was draining this way, and we'll say half of the site was draining this way. Now it's going to be just the backyards of these lots. Here, let me go to a colored site plan. Now it's going to be the backyards of these lots right here that are going to be draining south, and they're going to be caught in an actual pipe and a swale that's going to daylight in this detention facility here.
Okay, and then my second part of the question might be for you. In the DRT report on page 31, this is under the engineering comments. They ask a question, is an under-drain system plan to be installed per the recommendation of the geotech report?
I'm guessing that was for the actual foundations for the home.
Oh,
So what I'm talking about is like site-wide. And then there's like the under-drain system that's like a perforated system that goes around the foundation that captures water and pushes it out so that like basements don't flood and foundations don't crack.
okay.
Yeah, that's also referencing, we received comments from Colorado Geologic Survey. They noted that any mitigation measures proposed are acceptable, but they're probably talking about expansive soils. We know that they exist in Vista Ridge. There's a lot of special care that has to be taken for site prep for that. I won't get into all of that, but
Okay.
yes, also looking into the middle of those comments too, that might have been kind of midway. There's like over 90 comments in there. So typically earlier on, as you go through, there'll be a lot more detailed and a lot of questions, and hopefully through time we've resolved those, which we have in terms of the staff review of the engineering drawings. And usually when we look at drainage plans, I mean, they cannot make the situation worse in terms of a drainage situation. They should, at a minimum, not release past historic. But as we've heard, there's a lot of parts of this plan that are actually going to dramatically increase it beyond historic to dramatically improve the scenario. So
Okay.
I think I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
And then my second question is about the traffic as well. So I think that the traffic report in there was from 2025. I need historical help when County Line Road didn't go all the way through to Highway 7. Did that happen in 2024? Where people are starting to use Vista Parkway as kind of the new thoroughfare? Was that in 2024?
I'm not sure on that one.
Okay.
The exact date.
Chris, are you able to hear the question?
Yeah, I heard the question. I'm not sure the exact timing, but that interim condition will go away once Coal Creek Boulevard is extended from basically Arapahoe down to where the 90-degree turn is now. So that is an interim condition. I couldn't tell you exactly when that happened, but I think it's been at least a couple years.
Okay.
Two things too I would note. I mean, the application was originally submitted in 2025, so that was submitted along with that. I'd have to see if there was an updated version based on comments. Obviously, with final plat, we'll be looking at refreshed documents. I do know the town is fully aware of all the projects that we had in place, even if I don't know all of them here tonight.
Well, that's my next question.
Yeah.
Do you think that Red Tail would be considered as part of that traffic?
The Red
Additional-
Tail development
Yeah.
that's north of here,
Yeah.
we currently don't have a proposal for that on the books that would be part of our
That's
review.
true.
If that were to come in, that would need to be factored in on existing conditions when and if that project does come forward. I mean, we did do a preliminary plat approval of it. They haven't come in with the final. So until something is completed, probably not. I'll double check with our team on that though.
This is Chris. I can comment on that.
Okay.
So the long-range scenario in the traffic study that we did in 2025 relied on the town's transportation mobility plan, which assumes build out of all the potential properties that could be developed per the comp plan. And so, you'd have to assume that the area that Red Tail Ranch is would have been assumed in the long-range modeling that the town had, which we relied upon. So whether the numbers are exact or not, it's hard to say, but I think you could say that our long-term analysis assumed sufficient growth to accommodate that, to assume that project is in place regardless of how it ends up happening.
Okay.
We'll confirm with our team too prior to, if it's successful, prior to going forward to town council.
Okay, and we'll move on to Commissioner Leaf. Yeah, Commissioner Leaf.
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, I want to go back to the drainage issue, and this is maybe a question for the civil engineer. Certainly, the amount of overlot drainage will be reduced, but with that grading, it seems like the velocity will be increased. And do you anticipate having riprap or something to prevent that flow from crossing the property line into adjacent property?
Tom Ackerman with Hurston Associates again. So the hill is pretty steep as it is. So, but there will be, so if you've got the existing fence level, the swell will be lower by a couple feet from the fence where it is now on the back of the lot. So the water would have to come down, hit the swell, and go up about 2 feet before it would enter the back of the lot. So.
And then my follow-up question is, who's responsible for maintaining that? Because as you get sedimentation of that drainage swale
Right.
with inlets,
In the
that has to
lots.
be maintained.
I'm thinking.
Will that be the
I'd
individual
have to
property owner
defer
or
to-
the HOA?
So that, I think it would usually be the HOA would have to enforce inlet,
Yeah, typically with that kind of thing, we'll look at long-term maintenance for that in terms of the final plat review. Usually there's notes concerning that. There's money that is put up front, of course, for development agreement in terms of building that infrastructure and then long-term maintaining. Typically, those are HOA maintained that hire out to keep that clear and functioning.
Okay. My other question is also kind of infrastructure related. With regards to the water utilities, I guess there's kind of two parts to this. One is understanding that there's sufficient infrastructure in terms of water and sewer. And then the other question is really for staff as to whether or not there's truly water, the town has sufficient water to support this development.
So two things. Is there enough infrastructure in place to support water and sewer lines? Yes. There's plenty of it that exists in the surrounding area. It's relatively easy to extend to the site. No concerns on that front. Water supply, we've planned for growth for the town. As you know, there's an allocation policy in place. So as development comes in and they apply for building permits, it'll be applied at that time. At this point, we're confident that we'll be able to serve,
Okay, thank you.
given the restrictions that we have.
Okay.
Can I say anything, or is it not?
No.
No, ma'am. Sorry. Commissioner Burris?
Okay. So I used to live in the neighborhood. And so I'm well aware of the soil heaving stuff. And in the geotechnical report on page 12 of 27, there was a big table of the heaves. A lot of them are listed as high. And so I remember what happened in my house there was an open area, almost like a crawl space, 2 feet, that would allow the soil to go, and that was ventilated, which actually made it great because I didn't need a radon system because that was natural. Are you planning to do something similar to, or how are you planning to deal with the heaves?
I can only answer that generically by saying that we would follow the over-X plan.
Yep.
But maybe, Kate, you can speak to that slightly more. So typically the soils report will say, hey, you have to over-excavate by a certain amount, treat the soil, compact it, wet it, put it back so it mitigates the heaving. That's how I know to mitigate that.
Yeah, there's a CGS commented on this as well. Obviously, the area is highly expansive, so you have to take great care. CGS noted that would use floor systems mitigated through drilled pier foundations designed to resist uplift. You do over-X and sub-excavation to try to cure the soil and make sure that it's as safe as possible. Basically, they stated no objections to the approval as long as the recommendations from the report are rigorously adhered to. So I think that's very key, especially in our area, to make sure that that's done carefully.
Okay. My other questions were all related to traffic and water. Actually, there's one little one. On slide 12, Chris, of your presentation, there was a little red triangle. I couldn't figure out what that was for.
Oh, let's see. This one? This is slide 12?
Yeah,
that's a delta that's shown on the red line version of the PD document just to show what's changed. On the cover, it lists what's going on. And that's just noting that they're combining it into one.
Oh, okay, thanks.
That'll go away once we record. We don't record with red lines on them, so.
Vice Chair Dreckman?
Associated with the equestrian facility now, Paul, is there any detention ponds or inlet currently on the property?
There is not.
Okay. Chris, if we were to approve this and town council were to approve this and then they had to go on to the next step, would an updated traffic study be required for any of those steps?
I would want to get confirmation from engineering, but potentially we would want to make sure that it's refreshed, updated.
Okay. And then sorry, can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. My last question is just about the water capacity for the town. If the town determined their current portfolio could not support this development, would the developer be required to bring that water to the town then? Is that another option? It doesn't automatically fall to the town's portfolio, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's obviously a complicated question, but in
Sorry.
short, it could happen.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you.
For the applicant, I understand that the PD indicates that low-density, single-family detached, allowing up to 10 horses, existing irrigation wells operated until such time as the first home site is developed. Obviously, there are many conditions that can occur. The water allocation situation could be a situation that you face as well. Typically, from preliminary plat to final plat, we see about 2 to 3 years or so before shovel in the ground. What is the tentative timeline for that first home site?
Cade Bader, I'm the developer. Thank you for reviewing this evening. Nice to see everyone. That's all conditional on the approvals, of course, and then immediately after we receive our final plat, as soon as we can start, we'll start.
For staff, obviously the water allocation is an issue that we all know all developers are going to be facing. I'm from what I heard from Mr. LaRue, this is at the time of permits, when they are pulled, that is when the determination will be whether the town does or does not have the water to facilitate these units. It is all conditional at the time in which this all occurs.
It is when they pay their raw water fee.
Okay.
Yeah. That is when they are allocated water.
Thank you. We'll go back to Commissioner Halphill.
Thank you. On the current PD amendment, segment 210, the maintenance area, was that originally developed as like a maintenance area for the golf course, and the golf course doesn't need that, or the property owner doesn't want to do that? Is that
Well, the quick answer is it's never been developed as a maintenance area. I think it was originally contemplated that way for the golf course use, but never came to fruition. And subsequently, it got sold to the private property owner, Linda Johnston, who owns the overall property.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Commissioner Booth?
I was going to ask about that one as well. I'm good.
Great minds.
All right. Commissioner Halif?
Yeah, I have several. I want to take a look at the site plan and wonder, Mr. LaRue, if you could indicate where the existing pocket park is located. And
Yes.
also
Let me show a different.
the bike trail, bike lane, and multimodal path along Vista Ridge.
Yes, hang on one second. I can show a few on this one. Ugh. Having trouble with my mouse. Let's start with this one. So there are two pocket parks in existence in the area. One's to the north of Single Tree Lane. There's another one over here to the east off of Hickory Drive. The applicant, those pocket parks would serve the needs for the development. The applicant is proposing this amenity area along Peach and Bermuda Place that's located here where I'm circling. Trail connections will be throughout the development with sidewalks. They have a trail connection off the cul-de-sac here through Single Tree, and then there's another connection over here to this area that comes down and connects over. That'll allow access over to this park as well. I'm sorry, I forgot everything you asked. Did I miss?
The existing pocket park.
Say again?
The existing pocket park that's off of Single Tree.
Yeah, it's right here to the
It's
north.
up there.
Yeah.
And the bike lane and multimodal path, there's one along Vista Parkway, is that right?
I believe so. They don't have any internal here. I mean, these paths that I pointed out would accommodate pedestrian, walkers, bikers, that kind of thing.
So regarding the location of that sidewalk or trail off of the cul-de-sac, it looks like it comes in several hundred feet from the intersection of Single Tree and Vista Parkway, which would be more of a mid-block location to cross the street to get to the pocket park.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been considered that a better connection might be to Vista Parkway, where there's a bike lane, a 6-foot pathway that would lead to the intersection, and a signed crosswalk over to the other side of Single Tree?
Yeah, I think we looked at it some. I would not take that suggestion off the table. Obviously, there's final plating that we could look at with that. But I do know there's some elevation with the drainage in the area and the gas well. We did want to steer clear of all that. I would maybe talk to the applicant a little bit about that suggestion, see if they have any thoughts here tonight. Maybe they could explore it moving forward.
My other question is the applicant materials reference an enhanced streetscape. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Was that from the applicant's items that they were sharing?
Actually, it's on the preliminary plat that you're showing right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what that's probably, I think, talking about is that they have a large buffer along both Single Tree. There's also one on Vista Ridge. There's also one proposed on Hickory. You saw on some of the artists or the mock-ups, they had large green areas. So those are, I think what they're referencing probably is the enhanced areas. And then obviously throughout the development, you've got street trees and then the amenity area.
And just as a follow-up, to what degree are those vignettes binding as we move forward in the process?
Oh, you mean the things that they're proposing on their landscaping plans
Yeah.
and things? Well, all of that, especially as we go to final plat and we finalize those plans and we have them put money in the form of the DA, once that is approved, that is the plan that we are going to expect that be developed at this site. That does lock it in pretty well. If they were going to propose any kind of changes to that, once the plans are finalized and approved, there's an amendment process. But I don't think we'd be very supportive of reducing anything that they have on this plan at all. I think it works well and looks good. So I don't think they have plans to do any of that. But it does lock them in.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Brutus?
Yeah, I don't have anything else right now. Thank you.
Vice Chair Jerkman?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. So I know there was, Commissioner Brodas had alluded to this, the geotechnical about the recommendation to perform radon testing of completed residential structures to determine the level of radon gas accumulations. Typical mitigation methods consist of sealing soil gas, yada, yada, yada. If the developer does test, is this going to be every home that is tested, or is it up to the resident to test at that time?
No, it's up to the builder to sell a home that is certified. And it's my understanding too that there's borings done too on each foundation. So like, I think it's way more detailed than just taking a soil boring in 4 different parts of the site. And these are going to be pretty nice homes. So, and obviously Affinity Homes has got a reputation to uphold. So, but barring that, no, there will be radon mitigation if that's necessary.
Okay, so each home will have radon mitigation if it is deemed necessary at that time.
Absolutely.
Okay, and it will be the builder that covers that. It will not be on the resident to either test or to actually have mitigation performed.
That's my understanding as well. Yes,
correct. Thank you. For staff, actually, I'm going to come back to that. I'll blend them too. I'll play what you guys have. So in the DRT comments, that it notes twice that there were many agencies and local pseudo agencies that were not requested, which were requested to provide comments. However, there were no comments provided. Specifically, OSTAB, Vista Point HOA, Vista Ridge Metro District, Vista Ridge Master Association. So first off, for staff with OSTAB, I'm assuming because this was a smaller property, they didn't have much comment. Was this actually referred to them? Did they bring this up at all?
I can comment on that.
I'll mention briefly, I don't have their agenda in front of me, I can't confirm, but we typically would send plats, preliminary plats to that group to review. This probably wouldn't really have much in the way of significant value on any of the plans they have. I'm guessing the connections and things were appropriate.
Okay. And the applicant?
Is Kathy Cron part of that?
Kathy works for our Parks Department.
Oh, okay.
I think that she sometimes is a liaison for that board, along with Luke, the director.
We went through when we did the pre-app process, quite a few comments, and tried to address them as we went through the actual preliminary plat submittal. So we heard from them up front, and that's where some of these connections are coming from, like to Linden Parkway and to the park to the northeast and things like that. So it's pretty common when referral agencies don't have anything to say, they don't comment on it. Usually it's a revision. It's nice to see that when we get comments back that say no comment, but sometimes that's not the case.
I thought of something else I should have added. I apologize. Parks also, since they are the liaison with OSTAB, generally they would receive the comments. Sometimes we get the letters direct, but maybe they probably incorporated it perhaps in their comments. I'm not sure. I could double check with them.
Okay, thank you. And
That would be typical too.
still within that line, Vista Point HOA, Vista Ridge Metro District, Vista Ridge Master Association.
Yeah.
Is this property going to be part of any of these HOAs? Will it have its own HOA? Will it be included within the Master Association?
Yeah, I'll let the applicant respond, but my understanding is, yes, they would be part of the Vista Ridge overall development. We always refer projects when they're in the area or nearby to those different agencies. Honestly, it's rare to get comments from them. So this is not atypical to not get a response.
And the developer is in current conversations with the district because this will be part of the district as well.
Okay. Okay. So let me make a quick note. Okay. Commissioner Leaf, did you have any other questions?
I did, thank you. I wanted to ask about the perimeter fencing. What's the nature of the perimeter fencing?
Do you mean material or where it runs, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly can defer to the applicant on that, but typically those are individual on-lot fencing that encompass the individual lots themselves. I don't know whether or not the builder is planning on installing those. Sometimes it's the homeowner that does it, and then they have to build it in accordance with whatever HOA guidelines they have for the fencing.
Yeah, I don't-
Anything to add?
I don't think we've determined what the fencing is going to be yet along the open space and tracks.
Typically along open spaces, though, like where you have next to homes, it's required to be a certain height and not screened, so you don't create a sort of narrow experience through trails and things through Erie. So there are requirements in terms of how that looks, like where the trail would connect through certain homes, if that helps.
Okay, those are essentially code or staff requirements?
Code requirements.
Okay, good, thank
for
you.
fencing along trails, open space.
And I want to follow up on the question about the maintenance facility that was in the original development plan. Is there any implication of eliminating that from this plan that may have impacts on other projects that may come before the Planning Commission? I know that maintenance facility rezoning will be before us again. I just want to understand if there are any impacts that we should be considering.
I can briefly mention that. That is a separate application that's completely different from this one. Like,
Understood.
I would never consider the two together in any way. That being said, I don't think there's any impact. I think looking at this individual site and its merits is what we would need to do. It's never been developed as maintenance. It's privately owned. There's no reason to think that it would develop that way. So I guess in short, I don't see a connection between the two, but I don't know if there's any.
No, nothing to add to what Mr. LaRue said.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure we're not closing the door. But
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
mean, every application is reviewed on its own merit and review time. That is another project, but we'll look at that one when it comes.
That's all my questions.
Thank you. No, okay. There is the former oil and gas site that has been plugged and abandoned in 2015. It says that town staff has reviewed the associated documentation, found is it acceptable for the reduced 50 by 100. Just to confirm, that 50 by 100 area is not within the detention area that is proposed at the very northwest.
It is not. We had a lot of back and forth with the applicant on that. Originally, it was shown in there. We really didn't want it. There's not actually a rule against it, but we didn't think it was really the best idea. I want to give credit to the applicant for working with us on that and removing it out of there. So we did spend a lot of time on that.
Just going to make a note of that. Thank you. And for the applicant or staff, how is there have been many concerns with some of the detention and retention ponds within the HOA or HOA controlled, as well as just generally within Vista Ridge. How exactly are these detention ponds going to float and incorporate with that current system that is in place?
I'll look to the applicant's expert on that.
I'll speak to that. So I think our two ponds are going to release rates at the historic rates from the site. So I don't think we're making it any better, any worse. So I think our release rates are at like 90% of historic. So there is a little margin for making it better, but we're sending the water to where it is now going at the rate. So.
Okay, thank you. There were comments about the construction traffic. For staff, I don't know if you can answer this. Is there currently a weight limit that is on Vista Ridge Parkway?
I don't know for sure on that one. I'm sorry. Does anybody know? I don't know if you know, Kelly.
I don't know.
Well, we can certainly find that out, but I'm sorry, I don't know right now.
Okay, I vaguely think there may or may not be. So please.
I don't want to
thank you.
guess.
I know.
I'd
I
like,
know.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, local streets often have limits. It excludes deliveries. I mean, if you're doing work, they got to go somewhere. If there's a construction project, it's not going to prohibit them from accessing the site. Same with oil wells and rigs. I'm not 100% sure how that works. I don't know if there's a permit for that. Something I would like to find out.
Thank you. And as access was just brought up, what is the plan for ingress and egress from that construction site? Because there are some mature developments around there. How exactly and what exactly is the applicant thinking of how machinery will access and come off of that location?
We haven't done a construction management plan yet, just really because we're not quite there. So I couldn't definitively answer that. I just know that we would be following the town's rules as it related to when construction would be happening. But in terms of circulation, I don't know yet. Sorry.
Okay. For staff, do we know what those rules or regulations are or policies that we have in place?
I don't know the specifics on it, but I had mentioned earlier that there's always pre-construction type meetings that happen before construction projects where we go over all the rules of the town, hours of operation, nuisance mitigation, to include watering, etc. We're not interested in making this hard on people in any way. I definitely understand your line of questionings. I think that's something we'll need to really consider, especially given the developed nature of the area. Want to make sure that we're very careful on that front.
Okay, and going back to your presentation in terms of timeline, where exactly would a construction management plan be for future steps?
Definitely, you would want to see that after final plat approval, something developed that they would go into the pre-construction meeting with. I think that's probably where it plugs in. I can check with our team too on most of the plans we review are drainage, the engineering, and sort of like the final built product of these, but we can figure that out.
Okay, and just to repeat what I just heard, after final plat, which includes the development agreement, after that point is when the final construction plan would be put into effect.
Final construction plans, drainage, engineering are all approved as part of the final plat development itself. Once the development is approved, the developer would enter into the construction phase, and there's permitting and reviews that occur at that point.
It's my understanding that in order to pull a permit, you have to have a traffic control plan, which I think is what you're asking, which roads are going to be used for egress and ingress.
That's true. They have to come up with, like, on any construction project, a road closure plan, if that's a thing. What are the mitigation measures? Are there temporary stop signs in place, flaggers, locations, if any of that's used? That's all considered with that post-final plat approval, next step, construction phase.
Okay, and looking at, since staff obviously have done many of these, have worked with many applicants in the past for development agreements, final plats, when we look at this property and at this site, where does staff initially assume, and I don't want to say we're assuming, by any means, but typically where would we recommend this ingress egress to occur, because there are limited options for this property?
Yeah, I really don't want to guess. I'd rather consult with our transportation folks. I don't want to say anything today and have it be wrong, but we definitely would want to minimize impacts to the extent we can. But again, I don't think I'm prepared to locate that at this point.
Good answer. For the applicant, do you want to take a stab at it? Any idea, or are you going to plead the fifth on this one?
Yeah, I mean, when you start getting into construction questions, that's really not my realm. I am around it, but I couldn't begin to. I'm not qualified to even do a traffic control plan, so I don't know. Sorry. Like I said, we're not quite there yet. We were just hoping for recommendation tonight to move on. So I'm sorry we're not prepared to talk about that, but it just wasn't something that we were really thinking of quite yet.
I would say those are excellent questions, though. I think there's something that should probably be considered prior to our town council meeting. I think the applicant should put a little thought into that. Maybe we could check in with them on it, get some ballpark idea of how that's looking and what's involved. We'll obviously have somebody from engineering at that hearing as well. Sorry, we don't have one tonight. But I think those are great questions. I think probably we should direct the applicant to have a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
It's high level.
Are there any other questions from any of the commissioners? Okay. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing portion, and we are going to move into commissioner deliberation. I will start again with Commissioner Helmhill.
Nothing too exciting for me. I believe this application meets our approval criteria. And I think there is nothing too crazy for me. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Booth.
Agree with that also, but I do think, I do like the suggestion about having some of that ready for town council on the ingress egress. Traffic seems to be an overwhelming topic for residents there, and some of that construction. So I think that would be helpful to come to council with.
Thank you. Commissioner Leaf.
Yeah, I'll just, I think overall it's a reasonable application. I do have a few concerns that I'd like to just mention. The first one is really regarding drainage, and there are kind of three aspects to this. One is that I understand the requirement to look at historic flows, and I think this is an issue that can't be addressed here, but I think in the future we're seeing extreme weather events, and I think historic flows are no longer applicable. And I think in our planning process, we need to be thinking about those requirements going forward. With regards to the drainage swale that abuts the private property owners, I think that we should really pay attention to the construction of that as well as the maintenance of that. And I'd like to see a condition that the HOA be responsible for that ongoing maintenance. I am concerned about traffic. If there's an opportunity to update the traffic study, I think that should be embraced. My third concern is with connectivity. When we think about the destinations that residents here will have in mind, there's two really. One is the Pocket Park off of Single Tree. And getting there is, I think, problematic, encouraging kind of a mid-block crossing to get there. The other destination would be for bicycle commuters going to the retail area out at the main thruway there at Vista Ridge and Route 7. And to get to that, you really need to get out to Vista Parkway. So I'd like to see a secondary connection out to Vista Parkway explored as part of the final planning. And finally, I want to ensure that some of the promises made in this application are binding, and encourage staff to enforce those. And then actually finally, with regards to this construction activity, I think once the roads and curb and gutters are established, then a lot of the workers will maintain, will be within the limits of the development. But up until that point, during site work, you're going to have traffic, you're going to have construction contractor parking issues in the neighborhood, and I think that needs to be looked at as we go forward. I'll ask for some help from my fellow commissioners as to what we can put into conditions of those.
Okay. Let's come back around to that in just a moment, okay? So, Commissioner Brodas?
Okay, a few things. One, well, I can appreciate the concerns of new development in an area that you've gotten used to being open. I've lived in many neighborhoods through my life that have had new development come in. This was approved a long time ago. So it was always planned to be housing. It's not like it's a rezoning from something else. There's a small maintenance area, but that's candidly a very small portion of this. So I can appreciate the concerns. I'm not sure they're reason to hold anything up here. Looking at the map of the area, and I said I used to live in that area, it seems there are really only 2 or maybe 3 places. I think Single Tree would be kind of hard to ingress for the construction. Vista Parkway seems like the logical place, possibly Hickory. And as far as dust and things like that, builders typically, my experience has been, do whatever they can to keep the neighbors happy for things like that. And if problems do come up when it does eventually get to construction, that's something you should let the town know if there are issues. And the town would, I think, help take care of that for you. But candidly, I don't see any reasons to reject this application.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dreckman?
I'm going to echo what Commissioner Hempel and Commissioner Booth said as well, that I think I see the reason to recommend approval for this, and I appreciate Chris acknowledging that we should have some traffic studies and drainage updated before it comes before Town Council.
Thank you. So we have very specific approval criteria when it comes to both a preliminary plat as well as a rezoning specific to PD. There is one item on here specific to the preliminary plat that I am unsure of. The subdivision will not result in significant adverse impacts on adjacent properties, or such impacts will be substantially mitigated. There is a bona fide concern. It's a real concern for the traffic that occurs on Vista Parkway. When we're looking at this property and understanding we're in a very mature residential area and we're trying to get machinery to and from that site, it does become a concern because you're stuck in between a point where we have these traffic circles, roundabouts that are on either side. So you're going to have those navigating through there. Plus also, as has been said, it's a 2-lane road. I am definitely in agreement that with staff and their recommendation saying, you don't have to know exactly what you're going to do when the time comes for the development agreement and final plat, but that is something that should definitely be addressed, because ingress and egress probably should not happen on the residential streets. But then the question becomes, how do you actually ingress and egress on and off of Vista Parkway? So I understand that this is not the time where we would have a plan, a full-on construction management plan. However, this is a very large concern, as evident by all of the comment that we've received, as well as the comments from the individuals up here. Now, when we get to the referrals and we see the Master Association has not provided comment, neither of the HOAs are providing comment, this is, as has been said, it's going to be part of this area and most likely will be part of the Metro District. So that is one thing that I would like to see as a condition for the development agreement, that an agreement is in place with the Master Association and or HOAs, because when we're looking at who maintains most of that property around there, it is the Metro District and the HOA. So it would make sense where the current development is paying their fair share and has, skin in the game, if you will. So I would say, going to Commissioner Leaf's point, that is something that I would want to see as an additional recommendation as part of this, if it does, move towards approval for recommendation. I would also want to see the radon mitigation aspect incorporated into the DA or the final plat. As somebody who is a resident of Flatiron Meadows, it was hit or miss whether or not radon affected my home. I had neighbors on sides of me where it did affect them. They had the testing that was done post-closing, and it turned out that they had to front the bill for the radon mitigation. So if this is something that the builder will be addressing through the mitigation as well as the testing, I would like to see that, as was said, making sure that that is in writing at the time of DA and final plat. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Leaf. Were there other items that you were thinking would be warranted potentially for additional items as considerations?
Relating to the approval criteria, I think subsection G about the subdivision being integrated and connected to sidewalks, trails, and similar features relates to my comment about the connectivity to Vista Ridge trails and bike lanes. My comments and concerns about the drainage, construction and maintenance relates to the subsection H not resulting in significant adverse impact on adjacent properties.
Okay. So I'm going to turn to the other commissioners. Obviously, I have proposed 2 conditions for approval. And then there's, it sounds like a third potentially. Are there
the bike connectivity to Vista Ridge, and also the drainage construction and maintenance.
Okay, my apologies.
At property line.
So radon mitigation, HOA, Metro District involvement, bikes and walkable connectivity, and drainage, right? Those are the 4 you guys are. I just want to make sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think those are the 4 that are under consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, with radon, the other thing I brought up was about the heaving and making sure that that is addressed. Because as Mr. LaRue mentioned, that we need to make sure it's done right, or there will be issues with these houses.
Yeah, and I know that there was in the geotech report, it was saying over excavating 5 feet away from the tows. And I mean, basically knowing that if they are approved and whatnot, they would have to monitor how they're actually doing the excavation. So, but I totally understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Commissioner Hemphill, Commissioner Booth, questions, comments related to these?
Can you read out the conditions again?
Sorry.
I'm going to come to you in a moment. Okay.
Radon mitigation, HOA Metro District involvement with the current neighborhood, bike and walkable connectivity, and the drainage maintenance, soil control. Or like not worded exactly like that, but that's just what I wrote.
And then the egress, ingress? Or is that just a suggestion?
I'm gonna come back to you in a second, but just to clarify, this does not require a construction management plan, even though we may have a criteria that is specific to adverse impacts. We're not requiring at the time for this applicant to have exactly what they're going to do. That is going to be covered in the development agreement and the final plat.
Correct.
Yeah, there is the engineering standards that apply to all developments. So the applicant, at the time they move forward with construction, is required to submit and comply with all of our engineering standards, which covers things like the construction of streets, the materials used, traffic plan. It also covers things like stormwater management, the requirement to have an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater management facilities and other public infrastructures, and those private infrastructures related to stormwater management that is installed as part of this development. So some of what you are talking about today is covered through those engineering standards as the project goes through continues through the development review process.
That was my question, is out of those 4, which ones is it repetitive for us to, that would already be covered regardless of what our conditions are?
I think and looking at the preliminary plat, there's a drainage easement that's proposed to be granted along the back of the homes, which would indicate that that's part of the overall stormwater management plan. That would be covered in the stormwater management permit and the operation and maintenance plan. So I don't think that is something that needs to be addressed today. And I
Question
also
about
say,
that?
looking at the notes on the radon, there is state law that applies to the purchase of all residential homes. There's certain notices that need to be provided in all purchase and sale agreements that indicate whether a property has been tested for elevated levels of radon and what those results are, and it advises all purchasers to obtain a radon test before closing on the home. So there is some state law that applies to the radon discussion that the Planning Commission is having.
Okay, but radon mitigation is not required by the builder to take on the costs of if radon testing does deem it is beyond the safe levels.
I don't know offhand. I would say that if it is likely something that could be negotiated as a purchase and sale agreement, I think it's once we get to that point where there's a contract between two parties, they could come to an agreement on an adjustment of the price or someone undertaking the mitigation responsibilities if there's a need to do so.
Okay, is that something that if the developer is willing to include as an item where the builder is required to take on the cost of radon mitigation, is that something that we can put into the development agreement or the final plat so that they are required to do that instead of any potential homeowners down the line?
It would not be something that is typically included in a development agreement. Our development agreements traditionally address the construction of public improvements, the obligation related to those responsibilities and providing guarantees and assurances. And I think having that on a note or as a condition on a plat does present some practical issues, because plats, there will be owners that, the plat establishes the boundaries and the lot lines for the properties that are sold. Lots will be resold, so it's difficult to craft a condition specific to one.
It's hard to enforce.
Hard to
I would
enforce,
say,
yeah.
Yeah.
On the initial sale from the developer too.
It's
And
obvious.
it's just not standard of a real estate agreement,
Mhm.
like in any municipality in Colorado. I mean, VA loans do require a right-on mitigation test, but like beyond that, it's just not. I've never seen that in 10 years in an agreement, so I just don't think it's standard. Commissioner Leaf had a comment.
Yeah, I have actually a couple questions. One clarification for legal counsel. Is it within our purview with regards to the drainage, which I understand will be addressed through engineering standards, for us to require that the HOA be responsible for maintaining that as opposed to individual property owners?
I think that also presents issues because you're imposing a condition on a party who's not in this proceeding. We can't, unless we have a code provision or that there's another mechanism in our code to enforce that responsibility. If the Planning Commission imposed a condition on any party who's not in this proceeding as part of this application, it wouldn't be enforceable.
Okay. And then my last question, we've talked about the need for additional traffic studies, understanding that the original plat plan addressed that initially, but we know that those planning assumptions may or may not have actually occurred. To what degree can we require or request additional study as this moves forward?
I had an opinion on that. I mean, I think that we need to rely on our expert, our traffic team at the town to make that determination.
Yeah.
And that's something we'll consult with them on.
And just to confirm with our legal counsel, that is something that will be reviewed again and confirmed in terms of the impact from the traffic. The study could be the one that's actually used, but that will be something that will be reviewed at the time of final plat for consideration, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's important to note the traffic study identifies where there's issues and then solutions on how to solve those. I mean, it's largely already done that. So barring some significant problem, it's probably going to remain largely the same, but we definitely want to check with our team just to make sure that it's submitted correctly with final plat.
And I also just want to say the traffic study that was included was from like the end of 2025, so it's not.
Yeah, it was consistent at the time of submittal. We did several rounds. I know there were a couple of transportation comments related to that. I feel confident that we're in a good spot with it, but again, yes, we'll want to make sure that our team is on board with that.
So it's not very old.
Yeah, I would say when we're talking about the traffic study, again, knowing, final plat, this is going to be reviewed again in terms of that traffic study. Our TMP is projecting the 2050 vehicle trips per day at 12,000 along Vista Parkway. So if we could just confer to verify that what the TMP indicates is the same as what this traffic study is indicating, just so that we can make sure that there is congruence.
Yes, 100%. We can have them relook at that.
Okay, so
Me personally, I am not comfortable with the radon mitigation condition or enforcing the HOA to maintain the drainage.
Okay.
Only because I believe the HOA would be responsible for all of the open space, including the drainage, as per any community with drainage issues. But I think that's beyond what we're approving right now. That's my personal opinion. If anyone else has anything.
I would generally agree with that. The connectivity, I'm not sure what we enforce with that. I do love adding bikes, but I don't know how we put anything in this thing that says a sidewalk must connect to Vista Parkway, which maybe that doesn't make sense for one reason or another. But the other item about HOA, or working with the HOA and Metro District, that does make a lot of sense. You can't make someone comment though, so I don't know how that works. If the HOA doesn't talk to them, that's not part of our approval process. So I think the PD amendment, I don't think anybody has any issues with the PD amendment. And then preliminary plat, really my opinion is as is, but maybe potentially something with the HOA Metro District working together.
So it sounds like also for staff, if they could verify the service plan for the Metro District to see if this property is already included in it. And same thing for the applicant to see if this is already identified as future developed land, part of one of those HOAs where it is essentially required that this will be part of the HOA. So we had 4 potential conditions at the top. Where are we down to, Vice Chair Dreckman?
I don't know. I'm not on board with any of the conditions personally. Like I don't believe any of them make sense for what we're trying to approve or not approve right now.
Okay.
So, and then it sounds like Commissioner Hemphill agrees with me. I don't.
Yep.
Commissioner Booth, I'm not sure.
I concur.
And okay. Team.
Yeah, and if I could jump in just for one
Please.
quick second again, I'm looking at the preliminary plat and make sure I'm looking at the correct one. But there is the tract summary chart, which does indicate which tracts are intended to be owned by non-developer entities. So the landscaping and some of the tracts that are within this preliminary plat are intended to be owned or conveyed to Vista Ridge HOA. That would indicate to me that there has been communications with the HOA. And there's also a note that maintenance will be the responsibility of the HOA or the Metro District, which is typical in some of these preliminary plats. As those discussions progress and the development gets further on who is ultimately responsible for the maintenance of landscaping, storm drainage, and other aspects related to a development.
All right, so we're down to 0 conditions.
If I may,
Please.
I'd like to speak on behalf of the connectivity issue, because I think both our comprehensive plan and our transportation mobility plan both encourage us to create multimodal transportation in our communities and a very connected community. Mr. LaRue has indicated interest or willingness to explore connectivity to the trail system along Vista Ridge, and I certainly think that that's worth exploring.
Just a comment is from my time on OSTAD. The connectivity to the trails is part of it, and I believe that was, it's mostly the spine trails I think you're talking about.
Mm.
And it looked like there was connectivity, but I agree we should have Mr. LaRue just verify that. But I think it is covered.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we're happy to look at that and explore that possibility with the applicant. The safest route isn't always a direct route, depending on conditions. Obviously, we've reviewed this. I know transportation weighed in. We didn't have any issues as proposed, but we can look.
Yeah, and I will say, if we can have transportation take a second look at this one, because if you're looking at the TMP, there's nothing even planned. It's just a big blank space right there. No future improvements like we see in some other areas. So if we could just see if there was an idea of what the future looked like for this property, and if it does in fact meet that vision that the TMP set for. Did you have something else to say? No? Okay. Any other items? Okay. So we have two items that are going to need to receive a motion in a second. So I'm going to start with the first one and see if there is a motion for Resolution P26-12. This is the Plan Development Amendment.
Motion.
Second.
Do we need to? Oh,
That
read
is-
it out enough.
That is a motion from Commissioner Booth and a second from Vice Chair Dreckman. And if we could get a roll call vote on this one.
And just for the record, each of those has one condition on them.
Okay.
That's what I thought we had to read it out.
I will read it out. So just so we have it for the record as well. So give me a quick second. So this is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending that the Town Council approve the Vista Ridge Plan Development Amendment Number 8 with a condition. And
That's good enough.
that is good enough, yes. So roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Commissioner Leaf,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dreckman,
Yes.
Chair Sowish,
Yes.
Commissioner Schatz, Commissioner Brodus,
Yes.
Commissioner Hempel.
Yes.
That is a 6-0 yes.
Okay, unanimous. All right, now we are going to move on to Resolution 2613, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending that the Town Council approve the Vista Reserve preliminary plat with a condition. And is there a motion?
So moved. So,
Second.
you did read it.
Okay, so that is a motion by Commissioner Brodus and a second by Commissioner Hemphill. Again, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Commissioner Leaf,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dreckman,
Yes.
Chair Sowish,
Yes.
Commissioner Schatz, Commissioner Brodus,
Yes.
Commissioner Hempel.
Yes.
That is again a 6-0 yes vote.
So thank you. Obviously, there is a lot that we have discussed. Our job is to prepare you for council who makes that ultimate decision. So for all the residents out there, please, when the time comes, feel free to provide your comments as well at that time. But at this time, this agenda item is done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just wait a minute or two for the public. Okay, so now we will move on to the last of the general business items. This is 2026-402, discussion and preparation of the joint study session with council. And I will be presenting, but I'm going to stay right here this time. So, so last time we had discussed the agenda that is going to be coming up for the July 21st joint study session with town council. The proposed topics, the Prop 123 fast track, the comprehensive plan amendment update, the 2026-27 planning and development work plan overview, and the planning commission roles and responsibilities. When we discussed this last time, we had a very good conversation. We came up with a lot of ideas. We did have Commissioner Schatz, who wasn't able to be here, who provided some comment that I had provided to all the individuals up here. So I'm gonna just quickly go through the 4 items and see, are there items that immediately come to mind as, hey, we want to have this addressed? The first 3 items, these are items that are largely going to be staff-led. This is Prop 123 Comp Plan Amendment and the 2026-2027 planning and development work plan. Obviously, that last one, this is that discussion for council and us to have. Is there anything with those first three that we have a strong desire to have addressed in some way by staff in their presentation potentially, or for them to note in terms of any questions or lingering thoughts that we might have?
For 123, just the deadlines and any costs that we would have to assume.
Anything else on those three? Okay, so now it's that planning commission roles and responsibilities. So the last time that we met, I had asked, the hope would be that we would come out of this meeting tonight with one or two asks of the council in terms of this roles and responsibilities. One of the things, just like if you're fundraising for a nonprofit, you always have to have that ask at the end of, will you, this is our chance to obviously work with council and speak to them about this. And I know we're going to be limited on time, so I'm very well aware of that. Were there any specific items, anything that came to mind as, hey, this is one that I really feel strongly about?
I have one.
Please.
I don't know how amenable they'll be to it, but last night they did talk about how advisory boards are appointed in that process, and I know they're going to be working with staff on streamlining that process and refining it. And Mayor Moore made a comment about his desire for overseeing planning commission, but I think there is value in the planning commission reviewing applicants, maybe not interviewing them, but I think having some sort of visibility from the commission on the people who will sit on this board, I think would be something I'd recommend if others think that's good or not, or if we're happy with the town council just appointing people to this board.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on that one? I see some gears moving. So, is this something that we want to have as an ask of council when we meet with them in a week?
Who came up with, that was their suggestion?
No, this is just my suggestion, that the planning commission is more similar to how the other boards, so the other boards
We elect our own.
do not necessarily elect our own, but have a say. And have a formalized say. I know when we were going through the process of recommending you to reappointment, Commissioner Chair Salish talked about previously, they were told they can't do that. Kunal told us we could do that. So it seems like it's ambiguous. So if there could just, in my opinion, if the planning commission was consulted or review authority, similar to what we just did for preliminary of applicants to the planning commission, whatever that review means. Again, I don't want to waste, if an applicant needs to interview twice, that's kind of a lot for a volunteer position.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn to staff on this one, specifically our deputy town attorney, because I know that you all are working with town administration for this, and from my understanding from that meeting last night, they're trying to standardize things in a way. So it is possible that they say, yes, have the boards and commissions review, provide recommendations, or it's possible that they say, no, we'll take all applications, we'll review them, we'll create our own task force among ourselves and make a recommendation from there, or status quo. So there's three options on the table, and that status quo is we still are interviewed for planning commission, and the applications are reviewed by the town council for determination on who is actually going to be interviewed. So to confirm, those are the three options on the table right now.
I believe so. I have not been involved in these conversations with town administration on what the process and how they look to change it or streamline it. So I don't have any inside information on what they're looking to do. So I don't really have any insight on whether they're looking. Yeah, I don't have any insight on what they're looking to do on the overall appointment process.
I agree with Commissioner Hemphill, and I would be fine discussing that. I think that's
Yeah, so is the real question whether or not planning commission is treated the same as the other boards or differently?
Yes and no, but mainly yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting out of it. And I'm just trying to process whether, because we have a quasi-judicial role, but then so does OSTAP. So, on the surface, it would be nice to be consistent, but we do have some other considerations. So
Just to clarify, OSTAB is not quasi-judicial.
I'm sorry.
Board of Adjustment
They do.
is?
I'm sorry, you're right. It's not quasi-judicial. They do. Yeah. Okay.
They act as a referral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could we discuss it and then Elliot can tell us if it's not the case? I mean, if he wants to bring it up, I just feel like we should bring it up with town council, and then if Elliot determines that it's not possible because of our quasi-judicial, then we know the answer.
How would it not be possible?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't saying that.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, like, if you want to discuss it, I feel like we should discuss it.
It was brought up about the Board of Adjustments and the other term now that we appeals, yes, where they said, hey, these are very specialized individuals that are required over here, so we could staff recommend individuals and help filter through these. Right. So I from what I understand though, it's and we don't. I know that they are trying to standardize all the boards and commissions, just like they're trying to do with the bylaws, the code adjustment. So basically saying, hey, if you wanted to have everything standardized where we also review the applications and provide our recommendation, that is something that we would be willing to do as a commission. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think so, yes. And that, I mean, because they can always decide not to accept recommendations, right? Yep. So it's not that we're taking anything away from them. We're just making some things easier for them, hopefully, by doing a first step.
And I guess the code, again, I don't want the planning commission to choose its members, but I believe the code, I don't have it up right now, but it says planning commissioners shall be interviewed.
Correct.
I don't think it specifies town council, so technically we could, I don't know. But that's not what I want to propose. It would just be more, again, like a referral authority. Yeah. That'd be and not, again, I don't think an interview makes sense just because of the timing. Maybe it does. But reviewing applications, that would be as far as I'd probably take it.
Yeah, making a first cut.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to, I want to make sure that we're not, interjecting ourselves in their decision-making authority, because all appointments are at the discretion of the council. Correct. So, if they're amenable to that, I haven't, we haven't brought this specific aspect up before. So I don't even know what their thoughts are on it. I'm sure we could find out, so we could bring it up as a potential idea. Obviously, this isn't going to be something, potentially something that we come out of where, hey, tomorrow we're going to have this code amendments, for our authority. We know it is going to be something that administrative services, the town attorney's office, staff will most likely have to work on. So I'm fine with us bringing that up if that is what this body feels we should do.
Yeah, I see it as a very short discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. One item. Got it.
Okay.
Check.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Please.
Just to follow up on our prior conversation, did we determine that we need authority delegated from council to meet with other boards? And is that a question that remains?
I think if you meet with other boards that are tied to your roles and responsibilities, I mean, it would be within the scope of the Planning Commission's purview. I mean, I think the difficulty right now is your role is primarily a recommending body in quasi-judicial hearings and applications. So I think if the Planning Commission desires to expand their authority to more of a recommendation capacity for whatever recommendations you want to provide to town council, I mean, I would recommend that you have in your pocket what and how you want to expand your purview, and then you would tie that to meeting with other boards and commissions. I don't know if that directly answered your question, but I don't think you need explicit authority to meet with other boards and commissions, but it should be related to your roles and responsibilities as the Planning Commission.
Okay, understood. So I had an opportunity to sit down with Commissioner Schatz before he left town. Obviously, he put together that memo. As we had said, we were going to meet on it. Last meeting. What occurred to me during the conversation and seeing the list of items that are noted on there, very, very good ideas that he had in terms of very specific procedural changes or changes in terms of the UDC. And then we look at some of the historic items that have been discussed, as well as the litany of various items from Greeley, Superior, Lafayette, Brighton, the list goes on. I look at us as being now a home rule municipality where we have our own destiny that we can set as a town. When I look at these items, they're really two sides of an equation. As Deputy Town Attorney Schaefer just said, whatever we do has to be within our purview and within what we're supposed to be doing. And when we look at the items, they're really UDC related and they are comp plan related. So when I'm looking at how do we, knowing that we're going to have a code amendment occur where we have additional authorities that are provided to us from council, the question is, do we be very specific or do we be broad? When I'm looking at this, and I'm going to turn to our Deputy Town Attorney in a moment. I don't know if we have authority to make a recommendation of a potential amendment to staff and council for the UDC. I don't know if we have the authority to suggest and recommend a potential update or for implementation to the comp plan. When we look at all these items, they are UDC and comp plan related. It is either specific items that we are identifying as holes or items to address very specific criteria. And then when we look at the comp plan, we are looking at the implementation of the vision of how we get to that ultimate build out. So I said I was going to turn to the Deputy Town Attorney. And I know during our meeting on Monday, I had brought this up. The question is, do we be very specific in what we're trying to ask of the council, or do we ask something broad with specific items that could potentially be in our, say, work plan upcoming? So again, the request could potentially be the authority to make recommendations to council and to staff on potential UDC amendments, as well as the authority of the Planning Commission to make recommendations for amendments as well as implementation to council and staff. Are those two items that sound like they could be something that would be facilitated through a code amendment that seem rational in terms of these conversations we've been having?
Yeah, the first one, yes. I'm not sure I completely processed the second recommendation the way you qualified it. But I think if the Planning Commission desires to be able to provide recommendations to either staff or resolutions or recommendations to council on potential code amendments, comp plan amendments, I would recommend that that be explicitly within the code, so that be an explicit ask that you have as part of your discussions with council, so we could add that to your roles and responsibilities. I think for, just as an example, I think, I've worked in jurisdictions where Planning Commission has explicit authority to file text amendments, but that's specifically granted in the enabling authority of the Planning Commission for those particular jurisdictions. So I think part of the discussion for the Planning Commission to have is, internally is, what do we want our role to be? How do we want it to expand? And then how do we present that to council to bring forward an amendment to expand our roles and responsibilities?
Okay, specifically to the comprehensive plan item, obviously our authority that's vested to us through the code, it says, well, the town council shall be responsible for the creation and adoption of the town's comprehensive plan. The planning commission shall advise the town council on the comprehensive plan as outlined in Title 10, which I'm assuming is 10-7-21 comprehensive plan, which basically says the town council may, after recommendation from the planning commission, adopt and thereof amend the town's comprehensive plan in accordance with this section. But it largely sounds like this is something that is derived from staff or council. That is not something that we say, hey, we have this recommendation that staff and council invest some time in this specific topic for a potential amendment. So again, I go back to, do we even have authority to make recommendations for potential amendments that are not staff or council derived?
I'll need to look at the comprehensive plan section again. And are you looking at 10-7-21?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would need to look at the structure of that, but I think the way you were explaining it, potentially the planning commission, there may be authority in there to provide recommendations outside of a true application or amendment process, but I'd want to just look at the structure of the section a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to say, I know some municipalities, they do vest in the planning commission the authority to have a planning commission initiated rezoning or comprehensive plan amendment. I'm not saying that because I know that is, essentially us filing that.
Yeah.
And that is not at all what having the ability to make a recommendation in general, to invest our time and to then invest staff's time in coming up with these, because this, again, cannot just be us saying this. It has to be that council and staff have the time to look at what we provide, because they have their own work plan. We're planning on having ours. We would need to make sure that it gets the treatment that it would need if we are to recommend something.
Does anyone else have an opinion on that, what Andrew just discussed?
So again, two items: the ability to make recommendations to council and staff for potential amendments to the UDC, as well as same thing for the comp plan, which entails also implementation of the comp plan. They're broad enough, but they're, we'll need to have the specifics that we've been talking about, and that's the throw it against the wall and see what sticks. But we're going to have the work plan that will determine what exactly we're able to do.
Commissioner Hemphill, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think it is interesting. I guess if it came from us, it seems to me that code and comprehensive plan updates should come from elected officials. I'm not sure exactly what sort of code change would make sense. I mean, obviously they need to update it, but it sounds, I'm okay with asking it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's worth having that discussion. I don't know if I agree with it though. So that's
Yeah. My understanding is that in other municipalities, often the comp plan comes from staff and the planning commission for the town council to review rather than coming necessarily from the town council down. So I may be wrong there, but that was my understanding. The other thing I would add a third one, which is asking town council, do they have thoughts about other things we could be doing?
Agreed. Commissioner Leaf?
Yeah, I was just going to agree with Commissioner Hemphill that I think our elected officials should be the ones making that decision. But I think having room for a bottom-up process invites potentially good ideas for surfacing. So I would be open to that.
I mean, we're not saying we approve it. We're saying we would make recommendations.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So
They maintain the authority, agreed.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, we can't direct staff, right? So we can say, hey, we want to take, these 2 months to do this. We can't direct staff. Even council can't direct staff. They can only direct those that are, directly in line with them. So, Commissioner Booth.
Agree.
Okay. Vice Chair Jackman.
I agree. I think, yeah, it's a recommendation. It's not a change coming from us. That's not an elected official. It's a change by a board that hears public comment and sees these applications come before us. It's extremely common to update a comp plan. It's happened all the time in all municipalities in Colorado. So I think I'm on board with discussing that. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things we have discussed.
Okay, what could you run down?
Just reviewing applications for like when we change commissioners or we have new commissioners. Bob mentioned to staff presentation, the Prop 123 fees and schedules. Meeting with other boards and commission, the amendment to expand our roles and responsibilities, which would be the recommendations for changes to the UDC or the comp plan and implementation, and then asking town council what they want us, what they envision for us.
Okay. Anybody have any objections to those? Are we good with it?
No objections.
Okay, so 2 of those obviously are for staff. So the Prop 123 schedules. What was this? It was the third one on there. Sorry.
Boards and commissions.
Boards and commissions. Yeah, because I know that one is currently working with administrative services. So, okay. So I think we have, that means 3 asks that we'll have of 3 items that we will bring up in terms of the roles and responsibilities aspect. Review the boards and commissions meetings. You wrote it down. Let's go through.
And what they have for us.
Yeah,
Right,
what they have for us.
for us, meeting with the other boards and commissions, and then the amendment to expand our roles for recommendations for the EDC and comp plan.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we're in a good place. Any last comments? Staff, any last comments, thoughts, questions about any of that? Okay. All right, everybody feel ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's see. That was the last item on our agenda, so we will now move to staff reports. Does staff have anything to report?
Just that you all have your joint meeting next week. Don't forget about that. And then your annual report on the 28th. We've already sent in the presentation to the clerk, so you're all good to go on that. Yep.
Thank you. All right, now we move to commissioner reports, and I'm going to start on the opposite side this time with Commissioner Leaf.
I just want to publicly thank Commissioner Schatz for his thoughtful document that he shared with the commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Burris?
Do you have anything?
Vice Chair Dreckman?
Nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Hempel?
I just sent the email, and I will be traveling next week, so I plan to at least be on the Zoom call. And if I can't be accommodated hybridly, I'll at least be there. So that's what I got. It came up. So I'm upset about it, but
You'll be somewhere
gotta
somewhere
pay
a
my
lot
bills.
nicer.
So that's all I have. So appreciate whatever. I'm looking forward to at least watching the meeting.
And Commissioner Booth?
I don't have anything.
Okay, so I have So two items, and you did allude to it last night. Town administration council had all the different policies on the board that they were talking about. So there are some policies that are going to be changing. One of them that was brought up was that virtual policy, but it actually wasn't something that was, we're going to remove it. It was, well, we may actually be able to allow this for more boards and commissions because now they have the community room behind us. So, but again, there are 5 different policies. One thing that they did address was the rules of order procedure, and it was brought up explicitly saying, hey, there are boards and commissions, specifically the planning commission, which actually emulates what is put in here. So that is something that will probably be coming our way, where there will be an amendment to our rules of order and procedure. We don't have any decision on that. That is something that they do through resolution, but just wanted to let everybody know. The other item is October 21st, tentatively, is going to be the OSTAB joint study session with Planning Commission. So I'm going to be working with Chair Martin from OSTAB to come up with an agenda for that. Commissioner Brodus, I know you've having your background in OSTAB previously there. Obviously, we'd also be leaning on you to provide some recommendations of what exactly it will be. We will talk about this at one of the future meetings in terms of what exactly we have as an idea of topics. Obviously, one of the most pressing is the reserved open space. That is something that they have had constant communications about and discussions in their meetings. We have to be cognizant that there is tentatively a potential rezoning as it is for the Page property upcoming. That is council directed, so it has not, we do not have an actual application. I know it's weird, it's staff as the, or town as the applicant, town as the reviewer. So, but there isn't an application in process yet. The tentative October 21st is if for whatever reason the Page property has to be pushed back, knowing that that will come up during the conversation, we may have to push it slightly back, but I'll leave it to staff to let us know if and or when that time might come. So that is all I have, and with tradition, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And the time is now 8:52, and we are adjourned.
How have you noticed, but there are